Hello and welcome back to this course of videos on Node.js and Express. Now if you recall, in the previous video we used npm, which stands for Node Package Manager, to download the Express module from the cloud, let's call it. Now the first thing we did is we ran the npm init command to create this package.json file here. And then we then used npm install Express to download Express. That created this node modules file. And in the node modules file, you can see we have the Express module along with all these other modules that Express depends upon. And at the same time as Express was downloaded, package.json recorded or was updated to record the fact that Express is now a dependency of this particular app. So now we have Express installed. I'm going to convert my server code, which we created before. This is the code we used, that we wrote to create a server in regular node.js, just native Node, to serve our particular app. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to walk you through this new server that I've created. Now this code is performing exactly the same as this code, apart from this code is native Node and this code is relying upon the Express library. So before we go through that, let's just take another quick look at our very basic app. Here's our server file here, and then all else we have in there is the public folder. And in the public folder, we have our two HTML files. In here, we have one JavaScript file. And here we have one CSS file. So extremely simple app with only 4 files in there. So now let's take a look at the two different server files, one written in Node and one written in Express. And we'll walk through one line at a time. So first of all, on the native Node side, we required 2 modules. We required FS and HTTP modules. On the Express side, we only need to require the Express module. Now, the next thing we did on the native Node side is we created our server using our HTTP module and the method create server. Now, we're doing a similar thing on the Express side. We are saying constant app equals Express. Now, you can see that we actually have these parentheses after Express. So we've required Express, and it looks like we've executed what the variable that we pulled from here. I should actually change this const to keep in line with ES 2015, ES6. So what happens is when you require Express, what is exported is actually a function. So if you want to use Express, you need to actually execute the function that is required from the Express module. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm executing this function, and what is returned from that function is populated in my app variable, which is an equivalent of what was populated into this server variable when I ran http.create server. Although Express there is a lot more else in this that Express provides you. So now, on the native Node side, we said server.on, because server's an event emitter, if you remember. So we said on request, we would run this code. So on any request, on any type of request, we would run this code. Now this is where we start differing. So on this side, our app, again, is an event emitter. However, you can see what we're doing here is we are running a separate piece of code for each separate route or each separate file that we wanted to return to the user. Whereas on the native Node side, we have this one basically on request. On any request, we ran this huge block of code, and within the code we had to do a switch statement where we broke out, where we did cases for each different type of URL that was requested by the user. So that's a key difference. Now another difference here, you can see that we are using app.get. Now a get request, when there are four major types of requests that can be done: get, post, put, and delete. Now we didn't address that on the core node side. We basically just said whatever the request is, it doesn't matter, we'll run this code. And then we basically did our switch statement based on the URL that was submitted. Now, if we actually wanted to use get requests versus get requests and post and put and delete, we would actually have to first of all use the request object to actually extract the type of request that is done. These are get requests, but we don't specify that here. But if we were using get and post, we would need to specify that this is only for get requests. If we were doing post requests as well, for example, if we were doing a post request to index.html or contact.html, we would have to specify that. Now, we would use it would be using another switch statement or an if statement. In here you can see I can use app.get, I can use app.post, app.put, or app.delete. And that is how Express actually handles it. We know with this line of code here that I'm running, it's for this URL and it's for a get command. Very, very specific. On the native code, if you're, again, any request, doesn't matter what the URL is, doesn't matter if it's get, post, or put, we run this code. So there's a difference. Now, the next thing, let's actually look at how we are serving the file back to the user. And let's just take index.html. So we are, first of all, we had to write the content type header for the HTTP response, so response.writeHead. So first of all, we were actually responding with the response type, so 200 OK, and then the content type, which was text.html. Now we don't have either of those in here, you can see. Again, this is for the index.html URL. We don't have any of that. Express intuitively knows that, first of all, what the content type is, that it's text.html, because it simply looks at the MIME type of the file that you are sending. So it figures out, you don't have to explicitly say content type HTML, it figures it out based on the MIME type. And also the 200 Express will actually convey that within the HTTP response without you actually having to expressively say it. Now, so that's the right head is taken care of for us by Express. Now the next thing we do is we create a read stream to read this index.html file, and we specify UTF-8, and then we move down to this read and write file function here, and this read and write file function basically streams the data from the read stream and then pipes it to the response object, the response event emitter, which is a writable stream. And then we actually have to wait until the read stream is ended to communicate that the response, that all the chunks have been read and sent, and then we do our res.end. Now, again, on the Express side, all this is hidden for you, is taken care of for you by Express. All we do is we take our response object, which you can see for our app.get, we have two parameters. So we have our array here, which is an array basically of the different URLs we want this to react to. And then the second parameter here is a callback function. And this callback function is passing in a request and response object as we did before. We've got a request and response object here, which has been passed into the callback function. But all we have is this one single line here, which replaces all of these, and all of this code here is replaced by one single method called send file. Now, so send file is going to take care of reading, creating the read stream, and reading from public index.html, and then creating the write stream and writing it to the response, so writing it back to the browser. All this through this one particular line of code. So these are all my requests here. I have my 4 files that I am reading, creating read stream, creating write stream, so reading them and sending them to the browser. The last piece of code was the server.listen. In this case, we're doing app.listen, but very similar. And again, instead of just doing server.listen, app.listen, and then running my console.log, I've used the callback function here instead. So app.listen, first parameter is my port, second parameter is my URL. This is actually optional because, again, Express is very smart and it knows that you want to listen on localhost, but I've put it in just to be very explicit. And my third parameter here is my callback function, which says listening on port 8080. So I've actually already started running my server. You can see example app listening on port 8080, so we can see that it's successfully started running. And then if I go to my browser and I go to localhost 8080, you can see that my app is working in exactly the same way as it previously did with my original server code. But I've obviously streamlined it very much with Express. So I hope that gives you a good introduction into how to use Express to create a basic server, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.